Hello and welcome everyone. I'm your host Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist, space weather guy. Today we are talking volcanoes because we've just had a huge underwater volcanic eruption strike the Bismarck Sea. This is north of Papua New Guinea in the Western Pacific. And we don't see these sort of big underwater eruptions all that often. Though notably, we did have the Hungaha'apai eruption back in January of 2022, which has thus far been the largest volcanic eruption of the 21st century. So for the past 26 years. Now we have maybe a new contender. This is a pretty big volcanic eruption. Here we'll see the ash plume right there. And we'll go through this footage quite a bit because there's some weird things. It's still kind of loading at times. It can be a little jumpy, but we see this ash plume there. And this really started up on the 9th of May after some big earthquakes. And in general, an earthquake swarm struck the area. The strongest earthquake being a magnitude 5.6 that seems to have been caused by a new intrusion of magma. You don't get an eruption without an intrusion of magma and building pressure and all these things. And what's crazy about this, and let me show you the location on Google Earth here. What's crazy about this is that this underwater volcano, this is the Central Bismarck Sea Volcano. And it doesn't really show up all that well on satellite imagery. I mean, this is really low resolution bathymetry data, but here we see its location in the Bismarck Sea. We had the Bismarck volcanic arc going like this. So this is the southern, in the southern Bismarck Seas, this large volcanic arc caused by subduction here. So you have active subduction, and you usually get volcanic arcs to then pop up a little bit further off from the subduction zone. So we see that's exactly what's happening. Another classic example here would be like Guam, the North Marianas Islands. You have the subduction arc, and then back from the arc, you have the volcanic arc, and actually you kind of get sometimes multiple. That's just to the north, but we're really focused here. These volcanoes have been mapped with bathymetry, and there is a lot of evidence of there being these large debris fans that have spread out from a significant portion of these volcanoes. Most notably, Ritter Island had a huge volcanic flank collapse back in 1888 that killed a lot of people and generated a tsunami that reached heights of 20, 30, 40 meters, depending on which island. Now you see that this is a aerial volcano, so it's not below the surface, but what's really kind of crazy about what's happening right now is that the Central Bismarck Sea Volcano is located, what is it, 1,300 meters below the surface? Yeah, so that's 4,300 feet approximately. 1,300 meters below the surface, you have this volcano. And the fact that it is creating an ash plume going up about 3,000 meters. It's more like 2,500, I think it is, 2,700 meters. You have an ash plume 2,700 meters up in the atmosphere, or 9,000 feet being created by this, is pretty crazy. Because this eruption, again, is happening 1.3 kilometers down. Yet it's still pushing and pumping ash up super high up into the atmosphere. Now this is, and we're going to go in depth on this. This is pretty breaking news, so I can't guarantee I have every single bit of fact and information for you on this. No tsunami has been generated from this yet, or else we would have received reports from that. The risk is that because there's this ongoing volcanic eruption, which is clearly quite large because of the characteristics I just described, and because of the earthquake activity that has been happening here, magnitude 5.6 earthquake popped off, magnitude 5.0, here we see the 5.6, the 5.0, multiple magnitude 4s. Of course, there's going to be 3s, 2s, and 1s. This global seismic network only picks up basically magnitude 4.5 and greater. So it's probably been hundreds of earthquakes in this area increases the risk that there could be some sort of slope collapse underwater and therefore the generation of a tsunami. Now, the fact that it is in deep water lessens the risk of the tsunami because typically you'll get a big tsunami in shallow water. It's an equation between the size and the volume of the debris that then starts to slip and flow down, and also the depth of the water. So if you have a really big, for example, landslide in very shallow water, you'll get a huge, huge tsunami. There's examples from Lake Tahoe in Alaska that are, tens, hundreds of meters high, like cataclysmic events for that location. So that is not likely. I don't think we're likely to see a tsunami if something is to occur that's going to be 10, 20 meters high, but there is a risk. And it's also just simply notable in the greater context of the volcanic activity that we've been having, because things have been more active than normal. There's always some people that come on and say, well, these volcanoes are always erupting. And yeah, there's always volcanoes erupting on the planet. But when you have multiple volcanoes, they're all doing notable things in a close time period, like all clustered together in time, there's something there, and that happens. Geology and the geophysical processes, the geologic processes that unfold on our planet, Mother Nature, Earth, everything is not homogeneous. There's these bursts that occur where you have quiet periods of calm and quiescence, and then you get these bursts of activity. So, for example, we had Sakurajima volcano in Japan go off recently. That was the first pyroclastic flow that has happened there in 8 years. That's what the officials have said. So first pyroclastic flow from Sakurajima in 8 years, that was a big eruption. If we go down to the Philippines, Mayon volcano, an active volcano to begin with, Philippines' most active volcano in general, but it's been having tons of pyroclastic flows since the 5th of May. That's still continuing. So it's definitely more active than normal. Though again, it's already an active volcano, more active than normal. You have Kanloan volcano here. It's been increasing in its activity and kind of building up. So it hasn't done any huge eruptions just in the past week or two, but it is showing signs of increasing activity. If we go down to Mount Dukono, and I've covered the Sakurajima, Dukono, the Mayon volcano eruptions on this channel and on my Clips channel. They're both linked in the video description. Check them out. It's really simple. At Stefan Burns for this channel, my main one. At Stefan Burns Clips for my short form video channel. Mount Dukono had a volcanic eruption that blasted ash up to the tropopause, which is about 11,000 meters up. That's the boundary between the troposphere and the stratosphere. Not that many volcanic eruptions blast ash up to the tropopause or into the stratosphere. This one did. That's pretty wild. So that's clearly notable, okay? And we also just had an alert level raise at Lutobi, Lucky in Indonesia. This is one of Indonesia's most active volcanoes. There's actually two volcanoes here. So Lutobi, Lucky. And going from the 1st of May up to the 11th, there's been increasing gas emissions. There's been ground tremors and ground deformation. There's been increasing magmatic pressure. There's been deep volcanic earthquakes. All this being reported by the Professional Geological Organization for Indonesia. It's called MAGMA. And so they raised the alert level from 2 to 3. And that's quite significant. Now, these alert levels are always changing, but I'm just showing you how all this has been clustering in time since the beginning of May. We haven't been seeing this for years and years and years. Right now, and if you've been watching my channels, you'll see that my recent videos have all been volcanic in nature for the most part, because that is where the action has been geologically, which is what we're focused on. So now we are seeing a huge volcanic eruption, deep sea underwater eruption from the Central Bismarck Sea Volcano. It's only had one historic eruption that we know of. That was 1972, I believe. Let me just double check. I got my notes right here. 1972, January 8th to the 12th. So we really don't know that much about this, and we actually discovered this deep sea volcano because of that eruption, and we measured those acoustic booms, and as a result, we're like, oh, there's a underwater fissure volcano down there. So we don't know where this is going to go. This is just where it is right now. Let's go back to our satellite imagery so you can get a better sense of kind of what's happening. We don't know where this is going to lead. We just know that right now it is active. So again, the satellite imagery is maybe a little jerky at times, but yeah, we'll see the ash plume coming up right here. So this volcano, it's not like it's suddenly grown 1,300 meters and it's breaking above the ocean, the surface of the ocean. It's still at depth, but the fact that it is blasting all this stuff up into the atmosphere and quite significantly shows that this is powerful. Because imagine all the weight of that water, right? As you go down, the pressure really scales up. So to get even to the surface with anything with this eruption is very significant to begin with, because it's 1.3 kilometers of water pressure holding things down. You have to go up against that. Now, volatiles, of course, are going to rise up, but you're also simply, this magma coming up is superheating the ocean water into steam. So you're creating this interesting convection dynamic through that entire water column going up. I mean, we don't really have eyes on this. I think probably within a day or two, someone will send a helicopter over there to survey. I mean, we'll find out. But we see this popping off. It really started going off on the 9th of May. So this has been going for a few days, and it's just now starting to be recognized. But we see that very clearly. Big ash clouds, and it's changing. And what you'll see coming up, let me actually pause it right here and just manually scroll through this. Look at all this. That's all that ash from this eruption actually spreading out. So that, when you first see this, if you just see that image, you may think that is like just slightly submerged below the water, the landform, the volcano, etc. That's not the case. This is now that ash plume also, while it's hitting the air, also spreading out in the ocean as well. Because you see how that builds out, and we get some good illumination on that, whereas you don't get that at the beginning. Now, let me show you something really kind of odd here. I noticed this. You have to really get this imagery at high res. You see here at this point, the ash cloud kind of going to the south under the ocean water. But we see this really weird beginning to the eruption. This is bizarre. I don't know what this is. Okay, so this is the 8th, the end of the 8th UTC. Here's sunrise right there. Sunrise for this location. I can't zoom in any further, okay? So you're gonna have to kind of like maybe get close, squint, whatever. And see this? We have this line here. I don't know what this is, but you'll notice this is where the main ash plume is coming up. This though, look at how this like extends out. Do you see that? I don't know why it's kind of dark right now. At least it's showing up dark on my screen. It was looking better earlier. Can't zoom in any further. Okay. I hope you guys can see it. It's a little dark. But we see this thing extending. Oh, it just froze on me. We'll have to get back to that. I'm not sure why these satellite images are pretty big, and to get them going in a loop can be kind of difficult. So looks like it came back. Let's see what we got. So see how that's like extending outwards? And maybe I can actually improve the colors just right here on this menu to the side. Not sure I can. Yeah, I'm just not sure you're able to go see it that well. Okay, someone said they see it. Okay, good. So, but we get this weird, yeah, this slider. There's like this weird thing that like extends off of it, and then you'll see this moment where there's ash plumes coming up from both of them. So I don't know what that is. I'm just pointing it out. It's just bizarre. And hopefully I can get this to work again. But while we let that load, let's go to our USGS data here and look at these earthquakes. So we have, and let's sort them by, we'll keep it sorted by newest. So we see that our last earthquake to occur in this location was on the 9th of May at 9 a.m. Universal Time, approximately magnitude 5. The biggest one was on the 8th at 12:22 Universal Time at 5.6. All these depths are just with the default value of 10. They didn't, when they're in the middle of nowhere, it's hard to calculate the exact depth. But clearly some activity. And if you notice again, that 5.6 on the 8th, we had this really start up later on, about 8 hours afterwards on the 8th. So clearly big magma intrusion, because a magnitude 5.6 for a volcano is large. That's a big magma intrusion. So this is not some small event. I guess that's really want to drill that in. It's a big event. And therefore, this risk of a tsunami is much higher than normal. We have historic examples. 1888 is a great one. But this is a different volcano. It's not part of that South Bismarck volcanic arc around here. This is to the north, and therefore could really affect some of these islands that are very close by. And again, it's deeper, but it probably has the potential to do a larger landslide because this is a big event that's occurring right now. Let's see what this our satellite imagery looks like now. So go back to the beginning. So you see that how it's extending outwards? And then you start to see that gas plume go out. Look at that right there. It's very bizarre. It starts up simultaneously, but we see at the beginning how this thing is extending out like this. See that? It's extending out. And then both start up. And then this one kind of ends and fades away. And we just get our main bit right there. See that? Really going fast. Going across. It's still going right now. As you can see, though, now we have our nighttime imagery, and that's it. But I don't know what that beginning part is. Maybe it's like some sort of lava thing. I mean, it must be some sort of maybe like a chunk of lava rock that was created, like a pumice raft. I just don't know what that is. It's the weirdest thing. I noticed that. I was like, what the heck is that? But you clearly see then the smoke, the ash plume coming up from both locations simultaneously. So I just feel like there's a little bit of a clue there as to what's happening, but I don't know the specifics. Here we see from Volcano Discovery these updates. So volcanic ash advisory. We have this ash plume rising to estimated 9,000 feet altitude, and here we can see a good, again, the same satellite imagery. But we see that very clearly here, and we see the ash plume going out. This is nice because you see the scale bar, 40 kilometers. So this is not tiny. Again, that's kind of the thing. This is not tiny. This is a big event that's occurring right now. And from a volcano that we only have one other historic eruption known from back in January of 1972. So it's been dormant since 72, which is 50-something years ago, 54 years ago. I hope that's right. So it's been a while, and now it's active again. And again, it's not just active when there's nothing else happening. That would still be a notable development. I would still be here live for you right away. That's kind of the one of my responsibilities I put upon myself is when something's happening, I'm there reporting on it as soon as I can, to the best of my ability. And to provide you that information without any BS. So you can subscribe to the channel and know that you will be up to date on what's happening with the Earth and sun and space and everything. That's important when it happens. If something's not that important, it's not a big deal, I won't cover it, right? I don't make a small story into a big story. But when there's something notable, I got you. Here we see the earthquakes in reference to this volcano, again via Volcano Discovery. So we see they have the volcano marked right there, and then we have these earthquakes clustered around. So that's also an indication too that this is a bigger system, because look, this volcano there, or this earthquake there, occurring about maybe about 12 to 15 kilometers away. So that's showing that this is a larger volcanic field that right now is seeing activity. And even these guys, which are clearly part of the swarm because they're right there in time, right in location, but that's probably 30 kilometers away. So this is a big system feeding to one fissure point, and maybe in fact there is a larger volcanic fissure that exists across this ridge. Again, the bathymetry data is pretty awful here, but we do see a bit of a volcanic ridge right there. We know that this is like a ridge, a fissure ridge that rises up from the deep abyss. So we could be looking at an even larger eruption as this progresses. That's what happened with Hunga Tonga, Hunga Up High, okay? And I can actually pull up some imagery from that. Let me show you, because it's really quite incredible, the eruption footage that we have from the day before it did the VEI 5.8 eruption, and then things really went nuts. But this is what it looked like before the big eruption in 2022. So here we have Hunga Tonga, Hunga Up High. We just actually had a magnitude 5.6 strike Tonga. This again is the biggest volcanic eruption of the 21st century. There's some volcanic lightning. And if I go forward here, well, maybe I don't rush through this because it's pretty cool to see. You see this ongoing explosive activity from this. The big eruption was on January 15th. This is one day before. So if you thought that this was big, this is not big compared to what happened with the main eruption, which blasted a huge amount of water vapor into the stratosphere. We're still dealing with the effects of that climate-wise. A lot of people don't know that. About 50% of that water that was injected into the stratosphere, which typically doesn't hold that much water, is still there. So that was quite significant. Just ongoing explosive activity. And then if we kind of zoom forward here, look at just how much this expanded. And this was happening over the course of days, weeks, but this is one day before the big eruption. So we don't have eyes on what's happening. As far as I know, there's no video or footage yet of what's happening at the surface in the Central Bismarck Sea. It probably, well, I mean, it's probably not this significant. But to get an ash column going up 9,000 feet, it's not nothing. I mean, we can see it very clearly on the satellite imagery, like very obviously. So there is something happening there. Let's go back to our slider here, our up-to-date satellite imagery for this. And one of our mods said something about what that could be. That was our secret mod. Let's see what he said. Angle of sunlight may have been illuminating the initial boiling off of the seawater. Makes sense that ocean currents would cause it to break surface off center of eruption. So, but yeah, you see that movement of something going across. Really don't know what, but I mean, this could be, I guess maybe the steam and ash and more rising to the surface at the beginning. That's possible. And then, because that was kind of an isolated pocket, but then why we get the majority of it to come up here, I don't know. So some weird things happening right now in the deep ocean. And honestly, the bigger story that I'm seeing is, well, we have all this activity as I outlined perfectly in this area. Now we did have one big eruption recently in Central America. It's like, how do you pronounce that volcano? I have it on my X account. I reposted it, and I can show you that really quick. It's going to be somewhere in here. I'm live right now, baby. Oh, there I am. Okay. Right here we see some pretty cool footage. This is from Popocatépetl volcano. So Popocatépetl volcano. I think this might be Guatemala. We'll do a Google search right now for it. Clearly a big eruption, but the majority of the activity right now is in the Western Pacific. Almost exclusively, the majority of activity right now is in the Western Pacific. So let's type in this. Popo. Oh, okay, that's Mexico. Avocados from Mexico. Avocados every day, baby. I love it. Okay, so here we have our volcano that has been erupting in Mexico, and that is right there actually in central Mexico roughly. So there has been some other activity. Again, there's volcanoes erupting throughout the world, you know, a few of them at any given time, and then you have about 40 to 50 active volcanoes. Doesn't mean an eruption every day, but they are awake, they're active, they're not quiescent. You have about 40, 50 spread out around the globe at any given time. But what we are seeing right now in the Western Pacific is quite bizarre. Again, first pyroclastic flow from Sakurajima in 8 years, according to the Japanese. We have increasing activity above and beyond normal at Mayon volcano. Kanaloa volcano also starting to show more signs of activity. Dukono blasting ash up to the tropopause with the boundary of the troposphere and the stratosphere. Very tall ash column, 11,000 meters up. You have Luotobi, Lucky Lucky, having the alert level just raised from level 2 to 3 because of increasing gas emissions, ground deformation, ground tremors, deep volcanic earthquakes, magma, pressure is building, and now you see here in the Central Bismarck Sea this very poorly understood, studied, known volcano having a huge eruption. So tsunami risk is elevated simply as a result of that. You get some sort of collapse on that flank that could just push out a big wave of water to these locations, some of these islands. And our research here, here's a research paper I just went through before the video. Volcanic collapse and tsunami generation, the Bismarck Volcanic Arc, Papua New Guinea. If we go down here to Ritter Island, let me just kind of read what some of the key highlights of that are. So the collapse of Ritter in 1888 generated a landslide that reached speeds of 40 meters per second or greater. That's fast. And a lot of that's underwater. So again, you're pushing against water to do that. Forests were stripped from the lower slopes of Umboy, Sakar, and West New Britain to heights of approximately 15 meters. Suggesting run-ups in excess of this number. The reason why it's in excess is because trees can survive a tsunami run-up to a point. So let's say you have trees at 5 meters and the tsunami run-up is to 5 meters. You'll probably have trees be fine up to like 3 meters, something like that. It really needs to push beyond the tree line significantly for them to get uprooted and just to be totally destroyed. So again, forests were stripped from the lower slopes of Umboy, Sakar, and West New Britain to heights of approximately 15 meters, or 50 feet approximately. 50 feet, folks, suggesting run-ups in excess of this number. This is 1888. Blocks from the debris avalanche extend to about 35 meters from Ritter Island. And within 15 kilometers of Ritter Island, blocks are significantly larger and more densely packed together. So that's a huge debris fan that they observed using side scan, sonar, and with this bathymetry data. These fans, their size, they identified 12 tsunami, landslide, and then tsunami generating debris fans in this study that they did. And the sizes range from 20 square kilometers to like 150 square kilometers. And for Ritter Island specifically, the volume of that was, I think they calculated the volume of the Ritter Island one to be 4.6 cubic kilometers. So the volume of the Ritter Island collapse in 1888 was 4.6 cubic kilometers. That's a big, big collapse. That's a lot of material. That generates that probably 60, 70 foot tall tsunami. Now the water is shallower here, and you see that we're talking about these islands right here, right, which are populated. So it's a bit of a different scenario, okay? Just this is immediately local, but at the same time, these tsunamis can go out 600 kilometers. There's evidence of that. The Ritter Island collapse killed a reported several hundred people on adjacent coastlines and produced significant damages at distances up to 600 kilometers. There was also a tsunami in 1998 that killed over 1,600 people, and was reportedly generated by a large submarine landslide. So these are real risks, and when you see earthquake swarms battering an undersea volcano that's now erupting with a huge explosion up into the atmosphere, yeah, it can happen. We hope it doesn't happen. We hope it doesn't happen, but we are seeing it. We've been talking about the increase in volcanic activity, been tracking that for you. Basically from the beginning, there have been signs, right? God speaks to us often with some pretty clear signs. Sometimes they're a little bit more subtle. Sometimes they're very clear. It's been kind of a pretty clear sign that something big is coming, and this could just be another domino that's going to push over something bigger. Not that this necessarily itself is pushing over the next domino, but it's just an indication that there are larger geologic changes unfolding with the Pacific plate. The final point I'll make here is just keep in mind that the Pacific plate is the largest plate on the planet, taking up almost half of the planet. I mean, there's some variation there, but if the plates you have to keep in mind, the crust, the lithosphere, the uppermost crust of the planet is solid and dense, and it has structural integrity to it. That's how these plates are able to move across. Once you get below the plate, you have a more malleable asthenosphere, and then upper mantle, and then just the mantle itself. So they're more fluid, especially on the geologic time scale. They're more fluid. But the plates themselves are pretty rigid structures that then influence these convection dynamics within the Earth because of subduction and everything else. The Pacific plate is the biggest. So if you have the Pacific plate forcing and flexing and moving around, obviously that is going to have some ability to exert change upon pressure gradients within the Earth, which then obviously would manifest at a wider regional scale with the volcanic activity, if that is the case. We are also seeing right now eruptions at Hawaii. So we've had 46 eruptive episodes from Kilauea volcano since December of 2024, and the 47th one is about to start. It's been increasing. The pulse rate has been quickening, and this is smack dab in the center of the Pacific plate. That hot spot and mantle plume definitely being connected to this whole system. I think in 50, 100 years, even less than that, but really clearly in like 50, 100 years, our understanding of the Earth and in general the field of geology and geophysics will be dominated by a recognition that things are much more interconnected than disconnected. If you start to read modern research papers that are coming out, it's almost exclusively, like so many of them are talking about linkages between systems which previously people thought were not connected. For example, there's evidence of simultaneous ruptures along the San Andreas and also along the Cascadia subduction zone. Well, yeah, you have two faults next to each other. They're probably going to talk to each other. They're not completely discontiguous units. They're obviously linked together. There's a deeper system connecting them. That was the subduction of the Farallon plate. So everything is much more connected. The geologic system, Earth, is so much more connected than most people realize. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And if our planet was more disconnected, we probably wouldn't be living here. It'd be like Venus or Mars, which completely got thrown off and wasn't able to maintain this homeostasis in such a way that it allows for a really rich dynamic process. You do get earthquakes on Mars, and there was ancient volcanism there, and there's volcanism on Venus and stuff, but it's incredible. The geology that exists on Earth is unlike any of the other inner planets. It's really, really rich and dynamic. Biology has had a huge influence over that due to things like the great oxygenation, the sequestration of carbon. All of these have affected and continue to affect the geologic system of the Earth, and also the geophysical system, the atmosphere. Lightning strikes and all these other electromagnetic phenomenon of the atmosphere help generate Schumann resonances. Space weather impacts influence the Earth energetically to a huge degree, the global electric circuit and more. So there are these very powerful forces that are active in play, and it's not just that they're connected to one component and then this other component over here is connected to some other completely different thing and they never talk to each other. It's you have multiple components and gears connected together, and then they're all connected together as well. So Earth is incredibly complex, dynamic. I don't claim to know it all, but we're seeing just evidence of that over and over and over. You just have to pay attention, and others are as well. And so more and more research is coming out supporting this more interconnected understanding of the Earth. So that's where we are right now. We have this deep sea volcano erupting in the deep abyss, sending ash up. As of right now, the estimate is 9,000 feet, or about 2,700 meters. And it itself is located 1,300 meters, or about 2,300 feet below the surface of the ocean. So this is a remarkable event. I will keep you up to date on this if you subscribe. I've been freezing a few times. I'm sorry about that. But I'll keep you up to date on this if you subscribe. So please do so. Smash that thumbs up button to help the channel grow. I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Hopefully everyone is fine in this location. We hope we don't get some destructive tsunami, but it is now a risk. And this volcano has been erupting now since the 8th of May. So it's been less than a week, but it's been a few days now. And there's really no signs of it stopping. We could get more earthquake activity there, and that could further destabilize the slopes of this volcano. Anything's possible. We could get a really big event here. We hope we don't get some sort of Hunga Tonga event. We don't really know. This volcano, we know almost nothing about this volcano. We know a lot more about the volcanoes here to the south in this volcanic arc. This guy, one eruption on record, 1972. We don't even have really good bathymetry data for it, at least not with the main data sets you look for. So I will do more research into it. I'll keep you up to date. Yeah, thank you all so much for watching, wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves. I'll see you all in the next video.